It's Tuesday, May 12th. This is CTV at 6. Here's what's making news tonight. Canadian wineries could be adding billions to the economy if provinces cut tariffs. A couple of new mayors and a familiar face will lead New Brunswick's largest cities.
It will certainly be nice to have some sun tomorrow because showers are likely to return to the region at the end of the week.
Live from our Maritimes News Center, this is CTV News at 6. Here is Todd Battis.
Good evening. Nearly 40% of eligible New Brunswick voters cast a ballot in yesterday's municipal elections. A familiar name is returning to the mayor's chair in St. John. Donna Reardon was elected for a second term. But Moncton and Fredericton will have new mayors. CTV's Avery McRae has a rundown.
There will be plenty of new faces around New Brunswick Town Council tables in the weeks ahead. In St. John, they will be led by a familiar one.
I've worked hard in that team that I've been with. We've worked hard. We had a 5-year versus a 4-year term. We did a lot of heavy lifting. A lot of it was unpopular, but a lot of it was great work.
Reardon is one of 40 incumbent New Brunswick mayors to return to the lead seat on council, while 37 municipalities will see first-time mayors.
Congratulations, Mr. Mayor. Good stuff.
That includes long-standing Moncton councillor Sean Crossman, who edged out former Mayor Brian Murphy by less than 300 votes for the mayoral chair.
I'm extremely honored by the citizens of Moncton that have given me the opportunity to lead the city for the next 4 years with our council, and we do have a lot of projects to get covered.
I feel that we ran a good campaign and we came very close, and therefore, we resonated, and that's good. I feel good about it either way.
In Fredericton, Steve Hicks has moved up from his councillor seat to the mayor's role. Over 10,000 Frederictonians casted a vote for Hicks, with former MP Jenica Atwin coming second with around 8,600 ballots. CTV reached out to Hicks about his victory, but did not hear back by airtime.
We had a total overall voter turnout across the province of 40%.
Equivalating in over 216,000 ballots casted province-wide. That's an improvement of about 8% compared to previous municipal votes, but still low in the eyes of the province's chief electoral officer.
Municipal governments do make really important decisions about that impact the day-to-day lives of their friends and neighbors, about everything from, property tax rates, fire, police, recreation.
Councils will be sworn into their new roles over the next several weeks. With so many new faces being voted into a council role, I asked St. John's mayor if she had any advice for those wading into municipal politics. One point Reardon raised was the key of relationship building, especially with the province, who she says provides a lot of help to municipalities. Todd?
All right, Avery McRae starting us off in the Port City tonight. Now, in the case of Moncton, you may recall we told you about a survey on public safety sent to candidates in the area by an anti-crime group fed up with problems in the city's downtown. Enough is Enough coalition singled out 8 candidates running who didn't respond to the survey. 6 of them won last night, including Sean Crossman, who you saw is the city's new mayor. However, the coalition says Crossman was the first councillor to sign its petition, and he has attended numerous meetings.
When you have chats with Sean, he speaks that, public safety is his number one. I think even when you go to his website and have a look at on his platform what his priorities are, Sean knows there's a problem. He agrees with us there's a problem.
The coalition was formed last fall and has over 3,000 signatures on its petition. It plans on meeting the new councils of Moncton, Riverview, and Dieppe in June. Halifax City Council is eager to see if it can get some recently announced federal money for sports. It's seen as a way to help pay for the hotly debated rebuild of the Halifax Forum. CTV's Callum Smith reports.
Councillor Tony Mancini is hopeful that Ottawa will chip in for the Halifax Forum redevelopment and take some of the strain off the municipality.
It's been no secret in my thoughts on the Forum, and I'm concerned about the big price tag on the Forum. So if that funding could assist, I think that'd be a great application.
He says city staff are working on a funding application to the feds.
But there's, many of my colleagues are looking for more rec centers. We have a gap in that also.
Ottawa recently announced $755 million to help expand access to sport. That came after a $51 billion pot of cash called the Build Community Strong Fund for infrastructure projects, with sport being one category. But just in Halifax, the project list is long.
It's another good opportunity for community-level infrastructure to be built, like the Forum. There's also a pool that's needed for HRM as well. So there are some priorities that City Hall will have to work out of what's number 1, 2, and 3.
Rebuilding the Forum is the only option now due to its condition. Council barely approved the $126 million project in a tie vote back in March, despite the mayor wanting to rebuild elsewhere. The Halifax Forum Community Association says any chance at federal funding is a good one.
There's always demand. There's always some reason. Unfortunately, recreation and community centers often are the ones that are left behind because whatever the problem of the day is gets the loudest voice and the most money.
Halifax's mayor has been adamant that a public-private partnership should be explored for the Forum. Councillor Mancini says federal funding is for shovel-ready projects and believes the Forum should qualify. Callum Smith, CTV News, Halifax.
There was some relief offered for Nova Scotia companies hurt by export tariffs. The federal government is giving $14 million to steel, softwood lumber, fisheries, and agri-food industries. More than 1,500 workers have either lost their jobs or had their work affected by tariffs and global market shifts.
It's going to be targeting unemployed workers who are seeking to build their skills. It's going to be seeking to support workers who are currently in work-sharing agreements. It's going to not only help workers find new jobs, but train workers within existing companies who are pivoting their target operations to ensure that they have a job that is safe in the economy of tomorrow.
The money will be handed out over the next 3 years. Nova Scotia's unemployment rate was 6.3% in April. There's a live look at Main Street in Moncton right now, currently 11 degrees, as we bring in CTV meteorologist Kayla Mitchell for our first look at the forecast. In the opening, you talked about a little bit of showers possible for the end of the week, but right now we're going to look at what we got going now.
Yeah, exactly. So yesterday I brought you some rainfall totals that we'd seen since the start of the weekend. I just wanted to update those because, of course, we had more rain that came down through the day yesterday and through last night and into this morning, and in some cases there was even a little bit more rain as we went through the afternoon into the early evening, especially parts of Prince Edward Island, basically Halifax and eastern Nova Scotia. But you can see overall for this weather system, for the province of New Brunswick, it brought in general range of about 5 to 15 millimeters of rain. That was mostly showery conditions that came through on Sunday. Then New Brunswick sort of got into the backside of that front. Other areas that saw a little bit lower amounts of rain when it came to this weather system include parts of the north and west of Nova Scotia, the Annapolis Valley, for example, and western parts of Prince Edward Island. Some are cited around 8 millimeters of rain. The east of Nova Scotia, though, and Charlottetown, east and Prince Edward Island, picked up a significant amount of wet weather from the system, with a fairly widespread 20 to 40 millimeters of rain, and even some personal weather stations, a couple of them, reporting some higher local rainfall totals, somewhere around 60, 70 millimeters. So decent amount of wet weather for a good portion of the Maritimes from this system. Now, finally, it's beginning to clear away, and we've just got a few lingering bands of lighter rain and showers left, and even that's going to be coming to an end as we move through this evening. They'll be clearing overnight, and we are expecting sunnier conditions in the forecast for Wednesday during the day before a couple of showers return to the Maritimes Wednesday evening and night. And there's a further chance of showers coming up at the end of the week before we get into the long weekend forecast, which, Todd, still features some pretty decent looking weather, especially for Sunday, but I'm hopeful for Monday as well. And of course, I'll have that in the extended forecast when I'm back a little bit later on.
We look forward to that. Thank you, Caleb. We'll see you later. There was a lot of talk about cutting interprovincial tariffs when the Buy Canada movement heated up. Well, today, a report commissioned by Canada's wine producers insists wine could add billions to the economy if it were allowed to flow freely. CTV's Jonathan McGuinness reports.
After a long winter, the buds are starting to show in the grapevines in the Annapolis Valley. The Wine Growers Association of Nova Scotia lists 19 wineries in the province that produce almost 2 million litres of wine annually. According to a study commissioned by Wine Growers Canada, there is evidence there could be a lot more.
28% market share, 29% market share, which is what we have, is nowhere near the 83% in France. Like, France doesn't have almost no imports sold in their country.
Deloitte put the report together. It shows that domestic wine sales contributes $10.1 billion to the country's GDP. If that market share were to increase even to just 51%, GDP would jump by over $3.5 billion a year, reducing a crippling excise tax paid by wineries, as well as the removal of interprovincial trade barriers are other recommendations.
The Government of Canada has absolutely no restriction on the interprovincial sale of alcohol. The provinces have a series of regimes around the sale of alcohol.
Nova Scotia is one of the provinces leading the way where direct-to-consumer sales are permitted. Wine Growers Canada would also like to see long-term commitments to the industry from all levels of government.
If there is investment certainty, if there is tax certainty, if there is more research done into climate resilience, I don't see why some of the larger wineries in this country don't start investing in the province of Nova Scotia. Time has come.
Just like the buds on the branches, the province's wine industry is ready to blossom. Todd, in Nova Scotia, most of the wineries are here in the Annapolis Valley. As a whole, the industry contributes over $245 million to the economy. Todd.
Thank you, John. That's CTV's Jonathan McGinnis reporting from Nova Scotia wine country tonight. For many commuters in the Halifax area, the ferry is part of daily life, but with one route still running at reduced service, frustration is growing ahead of the summer season. Here's CTV's Hafsa Arif with more.
Right now, the harbor is quiet, but give it a few weeks and these boats will be packed with commuters, tourists, and people heading to summer events. That's why many are eager to see full service return.
With the 30-minute ferry service, you really have to plan your commute around it, and I'm worried that we're losing customers in downtown Dartmouth.
Due to maintenance problems with one of the ferries, the service no longer runs every 15 minutes like it's meant to. Halifax Transit says delays are tied to supply chain problems, replacement parts, and technical issues during testing.
If we could have consistent 15-minute service, I really believe we can increase the ridership. But that's the key, and that's where the frustration where we are right now.
And with events like Sail GP and the Junior World Canoe Championships coming up, businesses worry the timing couldn't be worse.
There's a lot of reasons for people to come back and forth across the harbor, and with the ferry down, it's going to really put a dampening effect on that kind of excitement.
Mayor Andy Fillmore says the city's also dealing with older ferries that need more maintenance.
I think there are some real questions around, do we need to put another ferry into the fleet so that we have something else to fall back on when there is this increased maintenance happening?
Halifax Transit tells CTV News there's still no timeline for when 15-minute service will return. But until then, shuttle buses continue running between Halifax and Dartmouth. Hafsa Arif, CTV News, Halifax.
For a fuller picture, we've done a lot of reporting on this subject. You can find that at our website, ctvnewsatlantic.ca. It's a challenging industry to get into and even harder to navigate. But those in human resources are driven by a desire to help people. Today, Black Canadians in the profession share their experiences at a first-of-its-kind event in Halifax. CTV's Vanessa Wright was there.
This is the kind of event Shantia Russell-Stubbs never knew she needed. And after 7 years in human resources, it's one she never thought she'd see.
Being able to see others that look like myself, professionally who work in a space where there are not many of us. So it's coming into today with joy, excitement, and so far today has been very informative.
I also believe it should be authentic.
It's the first Black HR Professional Summit in Halifax, a place solely designed for people who work in companies or agencies, large and small, and are the go-to people for employees.
As Black professionals, we are often siloed, and the opportunity to bring all of us together in one room as human resources professionals is a dream that I've had for many years.
The day was filled with conversation, ideas, and strategies for Black professionals to advance in the workplace.
I love the idea of convening HR professionals. There are so many experienced and new HR professionals out there, and there's not really as much of an established network, and so this actually creates that opportunity.
Especially in an industry where representation often falls short.
Knowing that there's a broader community out there of like-minded, similar professional folks that are dealing and grappling with a lot of the same challenges, this being a place to go to unpack all of that is perfect.
And for Stubbs, it's confirmation she's right where she belongs.
Having spaces like this, it is reassuring and comforting. Recognizing that some of the same challenges I'm having as a professional is something that is also shared with my fellow colleagues that are here today.
A successful inaugural event that set the tone for many more to come. Vanessa Wright, CTV News, Halifax.
There's a big new resident of Halifax Harbour. The Canadian Coast Guard has added a new ocean-going research vessel to its fleet. Success. The ship was officially put into service today at its home port in Dartmouth at the Bedford Institute of Oceanography, just below the McKay Bridge if you're driving over. Among its many duties, this floating laboratory will help with marine surveys and scientific research aimed at the impacts of climate change on the ocean and Canada's east coast.
It's really touchy for my heart. I want to say thank you, the one who was decided, and I hope this ship will help us to know more about environment, because the environment, it's not easy to be survived.
Family members of the highly respected Inuk elder for whom the ship is named were also on hand to take part in the christening. Time for a break now. Meteorologist Kalen Mitchell has his forecast still ahead, but first we'll get the latest on the war in the Middle East.
I spoke with President Xi. We both look forward to the meeting.
U.S. President Donald Trump heading to China for meetings. We'll find out what's at stake after this.
It's time for your Campfire Conditions Report, brought to you by Pine Acres RV, where customers become friends. And with the wet weather through the start of this week, there are not much in the way of restrictions in place for the Maritime region for Category 1 fires or campfires. In fact, burning is currently allowed in the province of New Brunswick. For Nova Scotia, it is permitted except for the usual restricted hours, which is no campfires, no burning between the hours of 8 a.m. and 2 p.m. And for the province of Prince Edward Island, currently open to campfires, with domestic 1 brush burning currently permitted between the hours of 2 p.m. and 8 a.m. Remember to check in on municipal restrictions and bylaws. Keep your fires small and under control, and never leave a fire unattended.
U.S. President Donald Trump is in the air on his way to China now, while issues loom both in the U.S. and abroad. The war in Iran, of course, and American inflation is now at its highest point in 3 years. NBC's Monica Elba has details.
President Trump Beijing-bound on his first trip to China in his second term.
So we're going to have a very good meeting. I spoke with President Xi. We both look forward to the meeting. It's going to be great.
The leaders of the world's 2 largest economies expected to take up a number of issues, including trade, tariffs, Taiwan, and the war with Iran. China is Iran's key ally and gets most of its oil from them. But with tankers stuck in the Strait of Hormuz, that spigot has stopped. Trump says Xi is anxious to end the conflict, but he has tried and failed to get the Chinese president to persuade Iran to agree to U.S. terms. Though today he said China does not need to intervene.
We need any help with Iran. We'll win it one way or the other. We'll win it peacefully or otherwise.
The war is now more than 2 months old, with price tags growing every day.
It was $25 billion, but the Joint Staff team and the Comptroller team are constantly looking at that estimate, and so now we think it's closer to 29.
And new evidence that the impact of the war is flowing through the economy, with inflation coming in today at 3.8%, the highest level since May 2023. The president says he supports suspending the federal gas tax, about 18 cents a gallon, and lawmakers have backed the idea too. But that tax supports highways and mass transit projects and could cost the government billions in revenue. The head of Aramco, the world's largest oil company, says if the tanker tie-up in the Strait of Hormuz isn't cleared up in 6 weeks, it could take until next year for the oil market to stabilize, meaning higher prices could be here for a while. Monica Alba, NBC News, the White House.
Get the Maritime's top stories, breaking news alerts, and watch live. Download the CTV News app.
Our next story is about using AI to remember history. A number of schools in neighboring Maine have adopted courses focused on artificial intelligence safety and literacy. And students at one high school are using the tech to preserve history. NBC's Ryan Bell has more.
Inside this library full of history, high school students are building the future. The Levi Stewart building in Corinna is home to thousands of artifacts, most sitting untouched for years.
Box 2, the one I'm working on right now, is the box of personal letters.
But Jacob Kieser and Zen Taylor are changing that.
Yeah, this way is way faster.
The Nokomis Regional High Juniors created an app that could alter the way historians archive documents.
We were surprised by the amount of work there was to do.
Basically, we built this from the ground up.
Using Google Gemini, a generative AI, the pair used a method known as vibe coding, where a developer creates and refines a program by sending messages to a chatbot.
The way I'm looking at it and kind of teaching it to my students is it is a tool to create your own tools.
The result is this setup.
When we're ready and when it looks good, we take the picture.
The image is then sent to an online database.
So we go here and we download it. Then when we're ready, we can hit transcribe.
The program quickly turns 19th century cursive into an easy-to-read web document,
where the people who work here can access them, read them, and understand them.
What once took hours to type manually is done in minutes.
Yep, you good?
That speed is gaining attention.
I'd love to see it get to the point where it's shared everywhere.
Teachers say Google reached out with interest in the product. Students also presented it to historians at the Maine State Archive, where it could rapidly expedite digital archiving.
And they only have a couple people down there who can even read cursive fluently, really.
Local library leaders say they're proud to see the younger generation taking an interest.
This moves these documents that have been sitting in boxes for 100 years out into a situation where they can be accessed.
It was actually really fun. I was able to sit through and basically make something my own.
Preserving history while creating their own. That from our friends in Maine. Still to come, a little sunshine in the region tomorrow. That sounds good. Kalen returns with the full forecast after this commercial timeout. There's a reason they call it the Pitcher Province, and that is a great example of it. That is Grand Manan, of course.
Beautiful.
In the Bay of Fundy. And I understand that if we hold this shot up long enough, we'll see all kinds of little flies, little insects that are now starting to pop
This is season.
Yeah.
For sure. Little flying snacks for some of the birds around the region. Speaking of which, I have a great picture of some birds coming up for the end of the show for tonight for us. But I want to start off by talking about some rainfall amounts for this month so far, and the fact that parts of the Maritimes at the end of April were still rated as being in abnormally dry or moderate drought conditions. And how could this be with all this wet weather that we have been seeing so far this spring? Because, yeah, the start of May, it has certainly been rainy for the region. We're looking at some rainfall amounts have been reported for this month so far compared to the average for the month. And you can see across a good portion of the Maritimes, we're already closing in, and in some cases have already met or exceeded what we typically see in the month of May. And this has been good news for the dry conditions in the Maritimes. You have to remember that that drought that we got into last year, that took several months to develop. It went all the way back into the previous winter season. And so oftentimes to get completely out of those sort of drought conditions, it takes several months of near to above normal amounts of precipitation. Now, the Canada Drought Monitor did note that there has been significant improvement in the moisture levels in the Maritimes in general as we've gone through the winter and through the first part of spring so far. But there's still a couple things like deeper water wells and some of the surface water reservoirs that could still use a little bit of a top up. So not necessarily a bad thing that we have had this rainy start to the month of May, because remember, our drier months are still ahead of us here in the Maritimes. Now, speaking of the rain and the showers, what's left of the current weather system is exiting, but there's still a little bit more wet weather in the forecast coming up a little bit later this week. There's a round of showers expected to move through Wednesday night, and there's a further chance of showers Friday into Saturday as another low pressure system moves past the coastline of Nova Scotia. So still a bit of wet weather in the forecast moving through this week. Taking a look at our timeline here for cloud cover and precipitation for the rest of this evening and tonight, though, what's left of the rain and showers for parts of Nova Scotia is going to be coming to an end. There'll be clearing conditions overnight, and for tomorrow during the day, a lot of sunshine for the region, and that will be nice to see because it has been a little bit gray. It's certainly been soggy for a good portion of the Maritimes through the start of this week. Now, Wednesday evening and Wednesday night, there'll be some increase in cloudiness and a band of showers is expected to move southwest to northeast across the region. Most of that should be wrapped up by the start of the day on Thursday, though Thursday morning there will be a chance of some showers in the north of New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, and in the east of Nova Scotia, especially around the North Shore and Cape Breton. Winds in the forecast for tomorrow around the Maritimes will be mostly out of the west and northwest, breezy with some gusts between 20 and 40 kilometers per hour, a little bit higher than that in Cape Breton, some gusts there near 50. It is going to be a cool night as the cloud clears, a lot of low temperatures in the Maritimes, low to mid single digits, a little bit chillier in that around northern and western areas of New Brunswick where there could be some lows between -2 and 0. Highs for tomorrow, though, in the north of New Brunswick between 14 and 18 degrees, including 18 at Miramichi, near 17 for Fredericton tomorrow. A little bit cooler at St. John, near 13 degrees there, but 16 degrees for Moncton in the southeast. Prince Edward Island with high temperatures on Wednesday between 10 and 15 degrees with a mix of sun and cloud. And in the east of Nova Scotia, most of the high temperatures will be around the low to mid-teens, so a little bit cooler in Inverness County and Cape Breton with some highs between 7 and 9. 14 for Amherst for tomorrow, and for Truro, the city centers Halifax and Dartmouth with high temperatures near 15 degrees, near 15 in the Annapolis Valley, and for the south shore of Nova Scotia, coastal areas 12 to 15. A few communities like Bridgewater could be closer to 16. Taking a look at the extended forecast for New Brunswick, there's a chance of showers for Thursday and Friday, as well as for the start of the weekend on Saturday. But look at those weekend temperatures. Could have some highs up in the low 20s Saturday, Sunday, and even possible for the holiday Monday. After that's a chance of showers on Tuesday of next week. For Nova Scotia in the forecast, we have a chance of seeing some further showers Thursday night, showers in the forecast for Friday, and then a chance of showers at the start of the weekend on Saturday. Sunday, a mix of sun and cloud, warmer temperatures though. Next Monday, still looking pretty nice at this point as well, and then a chance of showers on Tuesday of next week. And for Prince Edward Island, a mix of sun and cloud over the next couple of days. There'll be some showers in the forecast for Friday, and then a chance of showers at the start of the weekend. Sunday, looking like a mix of sun and cloud and warm, and then temperatures might cool a few degrees for both Monday as well as Tuesday of next week. Todd.
I like the barbecue. Nice touch.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll see you at the end of the show. Next, we're going to talk about attitudes around bankruptcy in our region. Stay with us.
Okay, so we're back at it tomorrow. Virgin Radio's 5K a day. Get those keywords starting at 7 a.m. for your chance to win $5,000.
And someone's going to win a 3-day pass to the Great Outdoors Comedy Festival. Will it be you? Good luck.
Household debt in this country now sits at $3.2 trillion. On average, Canadians owe $1.77 for every buck they earn. Many Canadians insist rising everyday costs are putting direct pressure on their finances. CTV's Leah LaRocque reports.
Dennis Granier can't believe how expensive life is these days.
You try to find deals wherever you can because it's crazy out there.
The price of food and gas, the biggest strain recently on people's pocketbooks.
Food, electricity, everything, gas, for instance, right now, like people are, they are suffering.
A recent survey by Harris and Partners, a bankruptcy insolvency trustee, backing what many are feeling. More than 90% of Canadians changed how they managed their money in the past 6 months due to shifting economic conditions.
We have two kids at home, and so double income, which is surviving.
Nearly half of respondents say they're cutting back on overall spending, and 1 in 5 delaying major purchases they had planned just to get by.
I'd like to go for a weekend fishing trip and stuff like that, but that's put on the back burner, maybe not even happen this year.
The survey found that not only are many consumers delaying big purchases, but they are also struggling to cover everyday essentials and are dipping into savings and relying more on credit.
They're delaying things like having a barbecue with their family because, they can only afford rice or soup or whatever it is. delaying maybe going to a doctor's appointment that's a little out of the way because they can't afford the gas.
Harris and Partners saying the summer is also when people can typically start saving. But this year is different.
The result that we got that was like the most shocking to me is that 91% of the people said that the financial change to them was out of their control.
Everyone looking for ways to save, including the Breslavs, who did the math and the planning ahead, hoping to stay ahead.
We're from Shawville, so we come to the city once a week and do Costco.
Leela Rock, CTV News.
Our guest tonight has commissioned a survey of how Canadians feel about personal bankruptcy. Sean Stack is a licensed insolvency trustee and has written about attitudes towards bankruptcy. We find him in Calgary. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Todd.
We're going to bring up some numbers here, Sean, and I'm going to get you to talk about them. There is definitely a stigma around the issue, especially here on the East Coast, and I'm interested by what you thought of these numbers that show how people feel about those who declare personal bankruptcy.
Well, what's interesting is, as you can see on the graphic here, 43% of people view bankruptcy as a result of poor personal choices. And what's interesting is that the actual fact of the matter is it's never one choice in itself. It's sort of a slippery slope. And there's been an increase in bankruptcy happening right now. Actually, it's the largest first quarter increase in bankruptcy since 2009.
Something like 37,000 Canadians filed for bankruptcy in the first quarter of this year. Would you expect that those numbers would trend higher in the coming months?
Absolutely. You know, it's kind of a lagging indicator. What's happening now is we're starting to see what's been carrying on for a lot of people. As costs go up and incomes don't increase, we typically will find that we're using more and more consumer credit. And a lot of times what people are focusing on is not so much the total debt owing, but how much is actually payable. And as interest rates climb, things get a little more and more out of hand.
$1.77 owed by Canadians in debt for every dollar made.
Yeah, and what's interesting is it's sort of like, when you take a frog and you dump it into boiling water, it hops out. But if you slowly heat up the water, the frog will boil itself alive. And I think that's what we have happening here is there's been a slow increase in consumer debt over the years that's become normalized. Unfortunately, Todd, what hasn't become normalized is the idea of filing insolvency when you get in over your head.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. Why do you think why do you think bankruptcy garners such negative reaction?
Well, I think two reasons. One is that we don't really understand it, right? So we tend to look at someone else and we think, well, they're living a lavish lifestyle, kind of like the report shows there, 43% think that it's poor personal choices. But really, when it comes down to it, when it comes to the people we love and the people we know, typically we don't judge them the same. It's the old analogy of walk a mile in someone's shoes. We tend to not want to walk in the shoes of someone that's insolvent, which means you're unable to pay your debts as they become due, because if we start to talk about that with someone, we tend to think that that person wants to borrow money from us. And so we don't have a sort of support network around having that kind of conversation. That's why I wrote this book, Beyond Material Salvation, and I commissioned this survey.
It's a bit of an old chestnut, Sean, that we Canadians aren't terribly comfortable about talking about money around the dinner table.
No, and it's one thing that's interesting is that money is our pastime. So we go to work, we get money, and we don't even like to talk about that. Credit is our future time because it's our future money. So what we're doing is we're pledging our future income for generally what our present desires are, or in these tight times like we have now, just our basic living expenses are getting so crushed in together here, Todd.
Is bankruptcy as a tool to get back on your feet generally misunderstood?
100%. Bankruptcy is you have to be insolvent. So what insolvent means is you're unable to pay your debts as they become due. And that is a financial and a legal state. It's not a moral state. And we tend to think of someone that's unable to pay their debts as someone that is immoral, that they are untrustworthy, as the report showed. 37% of people even look at it as a loophole. But it's in fact, in order to have a successful running economic system like we have here in Canada, a capitalist system, we need to have that corrective of bankruptcy to allow people to get out from the crushing burden of the debt.
Does views of bankruptcy change between generations when they're surveyed?
Absolutely. You know, the younger folks, the Gen Zs, they're a little more understanding, a little less judgmental of the boomers. And I think what that comes down to is they've actually grown up in an era where a lot of things, the opportunities that are available to them were not the same as the generations before. So they're more used to buying things on credit and carrying that debt and high student loans and things like that. So the idea of saying, hey, I deserve a financial reset, it's a little more acceptable with the younger folks.
What would you say to people who might be feeling like they're right on the line?
Well, you know, like we said with the 37,000 here that had filed, you're not alone. That's the first thing. Again, like I said, bankruptcy or insolvency is it's not a moral state, it's a financial one. So we have people within the community that allow you to restructure and get back on your feet. We are defined not by our past, we're defined by our present and what we're shaping up and focused on in the future. And so when we get to this dark place where we're owing this money, we sometimes lose thought of what our future is. And your future can be taken back. It doesn't have to always be repaying your past. You just need to reach out to the right party and have that discussion. We talk about that in my book.
Sean Stack, thank you very much. His fascinating numbers and the reasoning behind it. Certainly appreciate your time tonight.
Glad to be here, Todd.
We're going to make this our CTV web poll this evening, and we are asking this question. What do you think about personal bankruptcy? Your options are, I'm okay with it. It's a tool to get people back on their feet. Or, I don't like it. It's a way to avoid repayment. Or, I'm not sure. It would depend on the circumstances. Let us know at the website. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Health experts say it's not clear whether it's useful to test people who may have been exposed to hantavirus but don't have symptoms. CTV's Amanda Debison has that and more in tonight's edition of The Lifeline.
Public health officials around the world are grappling with the science of testing as passengers from an Atlantic cruise ship hit with hantavirus have returned to their home countries. 10 passengers who arrived recently in Canada show no symptoms but are quarantined or self-isolating, depending on their possibility of exposure. Experts say it's not clear whether it's useful to test people who may have been exposed to hantavirus but don't have symptoms. University of Saskatchewan hantavirus scientist Bryce Warner says a negative test in someone without symptoms wouldn't necessarily mean they don't have hantavirus because the incubation period can be several weeks. Doctors in the U.S. have released new guidelines around recess. This is the first new guidance in 13 years from the American Academy of Pediatrics. The update says recess helps students build relationships, boost confidence, and retain what they learn in class. That's why they should be protected and never withheld. In the last 20 years, up to 40% of schools in the U.S. have reduced or eliminated recess. Finally, those in the wedding dress business are noticing something new this wedding season. The rising popularity of GLP-1 weight loss drugs has created a heightened level of size anxiety among brides worried about their dress fitting their changing body. David's Bridal says the worries have led to frequent alterations and new fitting policies. To help stressed-out brides, the company is now allowing a dress to be held right before the wedding to guarantee it fits properly. With Health and Medical News, I'm Amanda Debison for The Lifeline.
Time for the scene and a look ahead to some of the biggest movies of the summer. Now, blockbuster season often begins with the May long weekend, right? So with that in mind, CNN's Rick Damigella runs down some of the most anticipated flicks heading to theaters.
This isn't about revenge. It's about preventing another war.
The Force may be strong as the Mandalorian and Grogu drop out of hyperspace and into cinemas.
I now pronounce you husband and knife.
June looks to be the busiest month at the movies, with Toy Story 5 among the high-profile releases. It's joined by Masters of the Universe, horror comedy Scary Movie, Steven Spielberg's Disclosure Day, and the next movie in the DC universe, Supergirl.
The Minions are back with a touch of mystery.
Buddy. Hello. The Minions head back to theaters in July in Minions and Monsters. The 7th month on the calendar will also see the release of the live-action Moana remake, along with Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey and Spider-Man Brand New Day, marking the first MCU movie release in a year.
Have you been horribly injured by a product made by the Acme Corporation?
It's not your fault. Fans of Wile E. Coyote Super Genius won't have to wait much longer for the courtroom comedy Coyote vs. Acme, which arrives at the end of August. Other big screen fare opening in August include Super Troopers 3 and the animated adventure Paw Patrol the Dino Movie. Getting reserved seats, extra popcorn, and enjoying the air conditioning in Hollywood, I'm Rick Damigella.
With Aaron and Peter. You can win a brand new bike every day with Bike a Day in May.
Listen for the bike bells every weekday between 8 and 9 and on the weekends between 11 and 12.
On Wall Street, the Dow Jones ended the trading day up slightly, 56 points. The U.S. Customs Agency has started issuing tariff refunds. Let's get the details now from BNN Bloomberg's Morella Fernandez.
We have the first tally of refunds for American tariffs. The U.S. Customs Agency says it's processed refunds plus interest totaling over $35 billion so far. When the U.S. Supreme Court deemed the U.S. president's tariffs illegal in February, exporters and retailers lined up to get their money back. It's estimated Walmart alone is owed over $10 billion. Here are the closing numbers for the day. The Canadian dollar is down to 73. West Texas Intermediate is up over $4 to 102.37. Western Canadian Select up over $2 to 77.82. And the TSX gained 151 points today. Those are your business headlines. I'm Morella Fernandez.
Kalen on the weather deck, take it away.
Yeah, seeing the first signs of that clearing trend showing up here in the north end of Halifax. Of course, sunnier conditions in the forecast tomorrow for the Maritimes. Our viewer picture for tonight features this great shot of some birds. Now, I believe these are gold finches, but I'm willing to be corrected on that if I'm mistaken. And it was sent in by Nicole McIntosh from Wallace, Nova Scotia. I want to thank Nicole very much for taking the time to share this great picture. Wallace, Nova Scotia for tomorrow, the mix of sun and cloud, and high temperature near 14 degrees. Start of the day for tomorrow. You know what's a little cool first thing in the morning? Sunny, yes, but a little bit cool with morning temperatures around the low to mid single digits. In the afternoon, it remains mostly sunny or with a very fair weather mix of sun and cloud around the Maritimes. And most of the high temperatures tomorrow will come up to around the low to mid teens. That will be accompanied by a bit of a breezy west and northwest wind with some gusts between 20 and 40 kilometers per hour. Remember, later Wednesday evening and Wednesday night, there'll be some increasing cloudiness and scattered showers. It'll be making its way across the Maritimes during that period of time. Let's find out what's ahead on Your Morning Atlantic.
Wednesday on Your Morning Atlantic, when soap in your mouth is a good thing.
Well, check out a squeaky clean local business that's sudsing its way to success.
Start your morning with us Wednesday on Your Morning Atlantic on CTV2 and Crave.
Finally tonight, if you're considering going to the U.S., a new survey ranks the top and most affordable destinations in the country this summer. And the #1 ranked city, well, it might surprise you, Atlanta, Georgia, has been ranked the top summer destination in the U.S. in a survey by Wallet Hub. Cities across America were ranked on 6 criteria by Wallet Hub: travel costs, hassles, local costs, attraction, weather, activities, and safety. A total of 41 metrics were considered in ranking from 6 categories. Atlanta came first. Second place, Orlando, Florida. Third place, Austin, Texas. Top New England destination, Boston, but that was way down at number 52. That's going to do it for us tonight. Our look at the day here at home. Bruce Frisco here at 11:30. Hope to see you tomorrow night at 6 right back here. Till then, I'm Todd Battis. Good night.
CTV News, the Maritime's #1 newscast. Watch live on Crave.